Let's talk farms. What's wrong with farming in this country, in the current state, in this time right now? And why do I want to start a farm? And what would I do if I did start a farm? All right, so here's a few of the problems laid out. One of them is all the blatant use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides. Another thing is all the monocropping. Another problem is going to be the farms are too big and they're all set up for kind of a slave labor type setup. And let's say, for instance, you have a huge monocrop field of just apples. So during the apple harvest season, you need all these laborers. But for the rest of the season, you just have apple trees with no apples on them. So how do you keep those people employed during the rest of the season? You can't. And that's why we have migrant labor at all the farms. So what's the solution to some of these things? A polyculture farm would be one of the things that you're going to need to do. So if you had fruit trees, for instance, that all flowered different times a year, then you could keep a permanent staff that just worked at your farm. You wouldn't need to have a bunch of guys all at once to pick all the apples. That's one of the problems. We're not able to provide work for the people in the community with these types of farms. And so you have these empty, desolate farm towns where there's no work available except for right at the harvest season. And it's because we have these huge farms set up in this way. I think smaller farms with more diversity of crops is going to be the solution in order for people to be able to have jobs farming that aren't debilitating and that are more doable by hand. And this is also better for the crops, for the soil, and it's going to prevent a lot of problems that you get from monocropping, like pest issues, because you won't just have all of one type of genetic that's so easy for the pests to jump from. Another problem that farms have is they're all growing the same common varieties of things. I think it'd be important for people to be experimenting with some different varieties and trying to find what grows well in that environment. Another thing I'd really like to do if I was farming is grow a lot of my own varieties, save a lot of my own seeds. This way, every year, my stuff is acclimating to my specific environment. It'd be great to have these seeds to be able to offer them to other people as localized seeds as well. There's so many more cool things that we can grow and more varieties to be made. And so much of us are stuck growing like the same old stuff over and over again. So it'd be really fun to experiment with different varieties, make different varieties, share those with people, share that information of growing those things with people. Now, I'm talking about growing stuff. What would I really like to grow? Fruit trees? Yeah, it'd be great to have an orchard of some variety. Not for the whole farm though, but for a good part of it. This would be nice because it's a longer term investment. So you have to get those fruit trees established. This is going to take a few years at least until you're starting to get a good harvest from these trees. During this time, I'd like to work on some vegetable farming. I'd be using whatever kind of soil building practices that I can, cover crops, composting, any kind of organic practices, KNF stuff, indigenous microorganisms, whatever I could do to just get that land rich, and then be growing vegetables that are like staple crops that people could survive off of. Potatoes, like broccolis, root crops, beets, carrots, maybe some fungi like some oyster mushrooms, all sorts of stuff like that. And I've been practicing all these kind of things for a while. Now, I'd also like to have some herbs because herbs are amazing because they bring food to life, and also because they can be used for medicinal purposes or to make other non-food products as well. So I'd have all the different Lamaceae stuff, mint, thyme, lavender, rosemary, and it'd be great to have some trees on the property as well. Trees that you could harvest the leaves off of, like cedar or something, anything along that line where you could harvest it, and other things that you could just harvest the wood and use the trees as mulch for the property, so I'd grow perennials like those herbs. I'd grow annuals like those vegetables I was talking about, more annual herbs like regular Genovese, Italian basil, that kind of stuff, and just have a biodiversity of things. As this grows and expands, could have somebody helping out, but since there's such a variety of crops, there's always work to do. There's always something that could be done. There's always something that could be put on the table. There's different products. There's different fresh products, dried products, processed products, and also a lot of fresh stuff seasonally. And since this is something that takes time to establish, it's something that I don't think a lot of people are really investing in right now. Some people are doing homesteads and doing some cool stuff, but not a lot of people are investing in this kind of farmland that's actually good for the community. In fact, our government doesn't really support this kind of farmland. Uh, all the subsidies are going to huge farms that are growing like corn that feeds livestock. And these farmers that are going to grow the way that I'm talking about have to buy land and do it themselves. So one thing that keeps me posting stuff on the internet is maybe one day somehow I'll be able to get some money, get some land, start a farm, and be able to share that and be able to, because this is what I want to work on. This would be a passion project for me. I would love to just be working with as many different species of plants as possible. This would be me in my element doing my thing that I love, and I think I'd be able to make a good living and maybe provide some work and provide a lot of good food and medicine for people doing this. So hopefully one day I'll be able to put this to the test and put it to action. And I know it's still going to be a lot of work, but I think there's a way to make it work that would be enjoyable. Spending time with plants, out in the sun, in nature, and being a mad scientist. Yeah, so maybe one day.